Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending today's SCLA Continuing Education webinar. I am Lisa Gieskes and I will be your moderator today. Please see the SCLA website at scla.org to find our future webinars and also propose your own. I would like to introduce Debbie Bloom, Local History Manager at Richland Library. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box during the presentation. I will compile the questions and our presenter will address them at the end of the session. Please be sure to mute your microphone. A recording of this session along with presentation slides will be emailed to all registered users. The video will be uploaded to SCLA's YouTube channel for later viewing. Please, everyone, mute your devices. Okay. Take it away, Debbie.
All right, Lisa, can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great.
And you see the genealogy from A to Z screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Lisa. Lisa, if you don't know, is my colleague here at Richland Library, and we work very closely, almost on top of each other. Thank you all for coming today. It was a little challenging putting this together. Lisa SCLA wanted me to do something that kind of covered everything. So for those of you who are the experienced genealogists, the beginning of this might be a little bit tiring, but I think it's always interesting to see what other librarians do. So you might find it interesting in that sense. At the end, at the second half of the program, we'll go into some more detailed information about new resources and maybe how to use some resources correctly. And I hope that you'll find that more challenging. The other thing I want to say is I'm going to go through a PowerPoint first, and I'm going to kind of go through that quickly. And then I'm going to get out of the PowerPoint and go to the internet, and we're going to look at 5 or 6 sites. I can't remember how many. So let's start. Genealogy from A to Z. So for those of you who are perhaps working in a library that doesn't have any genealogy online resources, let's talk a little bit about how you can get them started. I always find when someone comes in and they say, I'm here to get started on my family research, that they need to understand that genealogy is a research process. It's not going to happen. They can't sit down and type in their name. The other thing I think they have to understand that it's not always free. They're coming into the library because they want something free, but it's not always going to be free. So that's the first thing I tell anybody who comes in. It's a research process. This is going to take a long time. You're not going to come out of here today with your complete family history. The other thing I tell them is that they have to begin their research with someone who was alive in the 1930s. I asked them to think about this because the most recent census that we have available to us is the 1940 census. If you recall the census, it's a federal census. It's taken every 10 years. We began the census in 1790, and of course you all know we do it every 10 years, but only the 1940 is available to us. Some of you might know when 1950 is available. I want to say 2022, but that might not be right. So you want to start with someone who was alive in the 1930s, and you have to think about them in that space and time. What was their name in that year? Who were they living with? Were they married? Were they living with their parents? They have to go home and get that kind of detailed information. Without it, they're going to be swimming in a mud of data, and they're not going to go anymore. I always say the more information you have, the more information you will find if they're starting in Ancestry or maybe Heritage Quest. You must have a birth year and a birth state. I can't even get started without that stuff. And I tell them, I don't know about what everybody else does, but I tell them that I really have to see something So I asked them to start thinking about an organization plan, either online, software, or paper. And once they've figured that out, then they should start with their census searching. And they should find whoever was alive in the 1930s or that they're looking at. How many census would they be in? If they were born in 1899, then they would be in the 1900, the 1910, the 1920, the 1930, and the 1940. And you got to find them in all of those. And if you've been through the process, you know that that can be a challenging task. I also should say that if you are interested in helping customers work on their family history, it would be invaluable if you would start on your own family history. You'll be able to get them started. You'll understand their predicaments and you'll be able to explain it to them better if you have a good feel for it. So you get them started on the census searching. So that's about all the verbiage I have for you. I'm going to do some slides. For their organization, you can do paper organization, and there's tons of charts online. You'll see a family group chart there. I like to see that all filled out as much as I can for that person they want to start searching with in the 1940 census. There's also, I'll often suggest if they want to put something on their computer, that Legacy has a free download, and it's a very nice software. I use it, and I don't pay for the premium one. The standard seems just fine to me. If you have a customer and they would like an online tree, they could try Family Search. People have mentioned to me they're using WikiTree. I have not used it, but that's certainly an option for people who would like a free site for online family trees. So those are the options: software, online, or paper. A lot of people like that software because it stays on their computer and it's not out in the cloud. So this is what a census looks like. This is a 1900 census for Greenwood County. In it, I was looking for Charles Griffin and Matilda Griffin. This is a little more, you can see all this detail here. I'm going to, nativity, it gives their birth date, it tells their occupation. All of this information needs to be documented and kept in some good form of organization so that it can be referred to at another point. This is a little bit of a close-up of the Griffin family: Charles, Matilda, James, George, Mamie, Annie, Clifton, Sammy, and Eliza. So all of those children from James down to Eliza. Oh, what's great about this, and you can't hardly see it in here, but the James Jordan is the father-in-law. So now we know that Matilda's father is James Jordan. The relationships are always to the head of the household. I'm pointing to the computer, but it's not like you guys could see it. I see Grace has come in. Hey, Grace. So that's what the census looks like. And like I said, that's where your new want to start with that, with all the census they can find. So now, Charles certainly would be in more of the census than, say, Annie or Clifton, because he's a generation older. So he's got to be located in all of them, as do all the children. So census searching. Your choices are Ancestry, of course. Ancestry is a paid site. Many public libraries have Ancestry Library Edition. Your other choice is Heritage Quest Online. This is available 24/7 if your library has a subscription to it. Most library systems in South Carolina do have it, but there are a significant number that do not. So for those of you who do not have access to Ancestry, or your customers don't have access to Ancestry, or Heritage Quest. You can use Family Search. And we'll look at that in just a few minutes. We'll spend a little bit of time in there. Like I said, the best way is to use it yourself, and then you learn how to use it. And you guys know that. It's the way, that's the way it is with any database. When I talk to my customers about Ancestry, they often ask me about paying for Ancestry. And I tell them the thing to remember about Ancestry.com is you're paying for convenience. All of the records in there are available someplace, but by joining Ancestry, they're all available in one place. Now, it's up to you if you want to pay for your one-stop shopping, or if you want to use other available resources. For me, I didn't use Ancestry for many, many, many years. I didn't want to pay the fee, but now I did start like 5 or 6 years ago. I started, it was a big mistake because now I can't do without it. Having your own Ancestry page, it's worth skipping a year of lunches for me. It's really great to have. But if your library has Heritage Quest, and maybe they have Fold 3, you really have a lot of the resources that are in Ancestry. And it's really easy to see it on this screen. You can see how similar Ancestry and Heritage Quest look. Heritage Quest is Ancestry Lite. That's what I tell my customers. You can get it from home 24/7. I would love to see the state library pick it up, and I've been kind of pushing them to do that. They haven't pushed back yet, so I keep trying, and maybe you can try too. Okay, obituary searching. I don't get my customers, my new customers, started in this until they've really experienced the census searching. Then they come in and they start asking the right questions. For me in Richland County, we do not have, we have a subscription to Newsbank, so we can get the state newspaper, which is digitized on Newsbank, and we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Like Florence, they have newspapers.com, so they have access to lots of newspapers. I want to say Greenville has newspapers.com also, but I might not be saying that right. But I should say that it is very good to be aware of what the other public library systems have. It could be that somebody who is living in Sumter County and they don't have access to Ancestry or Heritage Quest, maybe they work in Richland County. All Richland County government employees can get a Richland County library card. So it's really good to know what the other counties are doing, county systems. It's also really good when you're asking for stuff. Like I've been asking for Fold 3 forever, and I keep saying, but Greenville has it. Why can't we have it? And that does make a difference. So it's good to know what other people have that can help make you make your case. Anyways, obituaries are a great resource. You can see on here, it gives, for this one, it tells how old they were when they died, tells their parents, tells the widow, tells the children. Some tell more, some tell less. You're going to be best for obituary searching for newspapers in your county, I imagine. I'm only really good for ones in Richland County. But like I said, we're going to talk a little bit more about Newsbank in just a minute. Oh, public libraries. Okay. So there's lots of information in public libraries through their digital collections. You might want to explore the Greenville digital collections, the Spartanburg, certainly ours. We all have digital collections that more and more are adding genealogical information. Of course, databases. Oh, I was like that history of the 19th Regiment. You see that there. We have that on our website. That was a black regiment in World War I at Fort Jackson, and it has a list of all the men who served in that regiment. So that's the kind of stuff that's kind of hidden in those public library databases. One of the images, the final payroll, that's actually from the National Archive. That is a place for our customers to go get information. I don't expect all of you to know how to use the archive, but it is an option for a lot of materials. It's good just to know it's there. That other one, that's a death notice, I believe I got from Fold 3 for Samuel Griffin. And then the Family Search has South Carolina death certificates as well as Ancestry, but they're freely available on Family Search, and we'll look at that too. All right, so what's new? Quickly, we're going to go back to this. I just put it on the slide. We're going to look at the State Library. We're going to look at Newsbank. I'm going to mention eBook Central and African American newspapers. Their digital collections getting to be pretty fabulous. The International African American Museum Center for Family History. I think if you haven't started looking at this as a resource for your customers, take a look at it. I think it's going to be a powerful tool for our African American researchers as they get going and get more material online. South Carolina Department of Archive and History. Guys, that's a great place to go for your customers who need, especially if they need free resources. And we'll take a look at that a little bit also. New on there, of course, is the birth certificates, the accounts audited from the Revolutionary War, and they've added lots of new county records. I believe Anderson County is one of them where they've added a lot of new county records, but we'll take a look at how to do that. SC Memory, I really think this has gotten to be a really good tool for genealogy research. I think I forgot to bring up Historic Newspapers of South Carolina. If we don't get to look at it, you've got to start using that. That's they're adding lots of new newspapers. I think Barnwell newspapers are coming up next. They've got Darlington in there right now. They've got the Palmetto Leader from Columbia. So that's a really valuable free tool for our customers to use. Okay, so I'm going to get out of this, and I'm just going to close that thing. Let's start with Family Search. Family Search is a free site. However, what did I do? I don't want to look at me. Let's see. Okay. Family Search is a free site. You can see my name logged in here. You have to have an account. So if you're many public libraries are Family Tree or Family Search affiliates, that's great, but your customer still has to have an account to access the material. So, and you can see down here, I don't use this for my family tree, but I started a family tree on here so that I could better direct customers who would like to use a free site for their family tree. Generally, for me, I start at search and I go to records. You can search, right here's the search screen. You can search for your people. However, there are a lot of records in Family Search that are not indexed. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not going to explain that because I'm assuming that all of you are Davis College graduates who know what I just said. Generally speaking, when I come in here, I come down here to browse all published collections. And 9 times out of 10, I'm looking for South Carolina deaths right there. It's a free resource. It's indexed. You can go
did you get our messages?
You can go in there and start searching. But like I said, a lot of records are not indexed. For example, the probates. Your South Carolina probate records are in here. When it says browse, that's exactly what it means, browse. Now, some of you
Debbie,
might, yeah.
We need to see your screen.
You can't see it?
No.
Okay. Thank you for interrupting. Is it coming up now?
No.
How did I lose it? Oh yeah, it says no one sees your screen.
There we go.
Really?
We're seeing the GoToMeeting page.
What do you see now?
Family search.
Yay! Okay. So do you need to see how I got here?
Yes.
Okay. So when I'm on Family Search on the main screen, I go to Search. This is generally where I'm going. Search and Records. And here's the search screen, but as I mentioned, not all the records are indexed. So I generally like to go to the directly to the database I want to look at, which is generally South Carolina deaths, but and that is keyword searchable. But I did want you to see the probate records. A lot of people aren't aware that the probates are online, but they're not indexed. So if we come into, I'm going to come into Richland. If I come to estate papers, if you have an index, like we have an index to Richland County estate papers, if my index says it's box 26 and it's between, say it's package 642, then I know to click this. I still have to hunt and peck through it, but that's how I can locate probates. But you can't do a search in the let's see, you can't do a search here in this window when it pops up and get the probate because it's not indexed. Now when customers come and they make an account on Family Search will automatically get them started on a family tree. So there's no place I can show you on here to say, how do I get started? Just when they open their account, they can start right away on a tree. I did want to mention something. As many of you affiliates know, Family Search stopped sending microfilm out, and they said that they were going to start scanning all the microfilm, and I kept waiting for it. Well, I kept waiting for it in a record search, but it's not coming up in a record search. So you may know this, some of you may not. I'm just going to go how I figured out how to find them. So this is a place search. It'll always open up into a place search. And Richland, and I'm just going to leave it at Richland. I'm going to select Richland, and I'm going to say, I want to see what's online, and search that. All of this stuff is online, and not all of it is in that digital records section. So I'm not going to go into it, but all of this has been digitized and it's now available online. You can see that little camera format right there. That means that that's available. Some of you who have worked with me on the 1868, I'm really interested in the court records that they have on here, and maybe, I don't know, sometime we have to think about what we're going to do about those court records and how we're going to work on those and make those more accessible for our customers. Okay, I'm going to move on now. South Carolina State Library. Okay, I know I've said this 100 million times, and I'm going to say it again. Everybody in South Carolina can have a South Carolina State Library card. When you come to their website and hit Programs and Services, here's where you get a library card. I think you still have to call them up with a driver's license number. That's how you get the card. But everybody can get one, and everybody should have one. And you should definitely be instructing your customers to get it. The main reason is for the online resources. Not everything at the South Carolina State Library comes through Discus. There's a lot of material that is not Discus related. The newest, biggest, fabulous thing in here is the Proquest Historical Black Newspapers collection. I'm in here every day. I don't think I can do without it, and I don't think anybody else can do without it. So get that library card so that you can have access to those historical black newspapers. They're the big ones, you know, like Atlanta World and Afro-American and the stuff like that. The other thing, this is not, well, it is kind of genealogy related. I'm in love with this eBook Central. Lots of great scholarly books are available, and many of them, it's like I was doing some research on Althea Gibson. I could go in there and get all kinds of books and articles from books about her that we did not have in our collection. The other thing, you know, I'm going to mention it, Newsbank. Everybody has access to Newsbank in South Carolina. This includes, through the state library, it includes the state newspaper from 1891 to 1987, unless they've added more material. The one through Richland County is more robust, so if you have a Richland County library card, you should use ours. But if you don't, you should use this, and everybody should be using it. Nobody in South Carolina should be going without using the state newspaper for, especially their obituary searching if they're doing genealogy. The other thing I want to mention about the state library is the great work they've been doing with their digital collections. Okay, now I have to get to my notes also. So, for example, and this is just what I type in here. You guys can, you know how it is. You just figure out your own way to usually I just keyword search it. The kind, wonderful people at official roster soldiers. How about sailors? Do you spell sailors with an O? Yeah. Okay. The official roster for World War I is online. Both volumes, the white and the colored volumes, right here, they're online, digitized. Of course, we have them here. I'll be honest with you, our copies are getting pretty frail. So it's wonderful that we now have this resource online that we can direct our customers to. Remember the official roster, it gives a list of all the men who served during World War I from South Carolina, and it gives a little bit of information about their service. The other thing that they put up were the school directories. So here you can see, now these are not a listing of all the students. These are a listing of teachers and administrators for white and colored schools from 1913, and I think it goes into the 2000s. So that's not exactly a new resource, but it's new within the last few years. The other one that I use a lot, and this maybe isn't for genealogy, but you know, they've digitized the Sandlapper magazine. So all of them. So you can get, here you can, if you are in, I don't know, Jasper County, see if there's an article about, what is it, the frogs in Jasper or the turtles? I can't remember now which it is. If you want to see an old article about that, all of that is digitized now on the South Carolina State Library site. Okay, Okay, SC memory. This is really getting to be an important tool for family history research. I wanted to mention, of course, the 1868 voter registration. So many of us worked on this registration. This is my way of doing, okay, so they always come up with this Richland County stuff first. I can't get them to change it. We just got to go around it. What I do is I click on the first thing I see with an image. And then, do you see up here these red letters? This will get you into the main page, which is really where I like to start from. So, for example, I had a customer come in. She was from Chester. You can see this is Chester County. She was searching Colvin. She was kind of a new researcher, so she wasn't real familiar with a lot of stuff. We were searching Colvins. I'm going to enlarge it. And here was her dude right here. And to her immense surprise and pleasure, she saw an Austin Carter, which was someone from her tree also. So that was a really, it was really great that she was able to find something on it. Oh, I messed it up again, didn't I? Okay, there. So that's South Carolina State Library. Nope. That is South Carolina Digital Library. And let me come out of here. The other thing I like on here that I've been using a lot is the family Bibles. Again, I just grab, this is how I do it. I can't find, they don't have the links to the home, they've changed their website and it gets all messed up. So then I come in here and I click Family Bible Records, and that takes me to the home page. You can look at all of the listing of Family Bible Records. And it also tells what to do if you know somebody who would like to maybe not donate a family Bible, but maybe they would like to donate a digital scan of their family Bible to the collection. They can do that. That's information is all right here. And then they can send it as an attachment to Henry, or, you know, you can do it for them too, you know, that's fine also. The other thing that they've been working on is at Historic Newspapers of South Carolina. And I didn't have the website set up, so look for it and search it. It's got, they're really, it's got the Lighthouse and Informer, it's got the Palmetto Leader, it's got all, I think, all of the South Carolina newspapers that are in Chronicling America, and it has them available there. Okay, so now we got to go on because we're going to run out of time. Okay, here's the International African American Museum Center for Family History. They have a project where they are collecting the pension files for colored soldiers from South Carolina. Now, your customers are going to have to contact them about this, because it's my understanding that there is a list and they're getting the list fulfilled. You can get your ancestor's name on the list. Here are some of the pension files for the Union soldiers are pretty awesome. So they're important for everybody to have, but they come from the National Archives, and it takes a good bit of money. I would say they're probably upwards of $100 up, and it takes time. So to have the International African American Museum help collect these is a really big deal. And you'll have to have your customers contact them, see how they can get their ancestor's name on the list. There's information on here to find out how to search the Civil War pension files. I'll click on here just for a minute and you can kind of get a feel for, this is a 37-page file. And if any soldiers who served with the Union would probably have a very similar file. And it's chock full of genealogical information. The other thing they're doing on here is they're collecting Bible records, and I really love that they're doing obituaries and funeral programs. So those are all things to direct your customers to, and also gives them the option of participating and building the collection, which really makes people invested in their family history, I think. All right, let's spend a little bit of time at the archives. I think this is a pretty hard site to search, but let's get started with research and genealogy, and let's just take each of these little things one at a time. So online records index. I say, just take me to the search page. Why don't you, never mind. I'm not even going to go there. I don't even know why they asked that. Just take us to where we want to be. In Abnet, I wanted to show you. Okay, so I did a name search. This is a new collection that they've digitized, and these are the audited accounts, the accounts audited from the American Revolution. So this is all just recently digitized. This is all material that we had to go to the archive to get. And now it's all digitized and available for us to search from the comfort of our homes. If you use the Moss book for your pension to see if someone has an accounts audited, if you get that AA, that accounts audited number, and put it in the description search, Christians is 3928. Look at it, comes up, file number 3928. I was so exceedingly excited about that. So you don't even have to worry about, because you can see a name like an Abnet, you're going to screw it up no matter what. But now we can just type in the file number and you can pull up that account audited. Of course, there's lots of other records in here, and I really just have time to show you the accounts audited, and that's only because that's a new one. I also want to mention CIRA. This is their, as it's explained to me, when they receive records electronically, they're going to go into here. So that's why the South Carolina birth certificates are in CIRA. And the South Carolina birth certificates are painful to search. This is what I do. There's only 3 years in here right now. Remember, there's a 100-year delay for birth certificates. I go to the index. You can just download it right down to your computer, get that index, get the certificate number. You really, let's see, you have to, I'm afraid to touch this because every time I do, we lose the screen. There's something over here. I had to get this set up in my archive, and I don't have a double screen because we're in the archive, so I am without a screen, an extra screen. I'll see. But there's, you can download this file. Grab the certificate number, stick the certificate number in the search screen, and search for your birth certificate that way. I think it's easier than doing it by any kind of name, because the birth certificates are only a small amount of what's in here. You put in anybody's name, and you're going to get all kinds of crazy hits, like from 2000 in Nikki Haley's emails or something. So download the index first, look for the certificate number, then go back and search by certificate number. As it is, there's only 3 years, so it's not like it's a hardship to do that right now. Now, when we have 10 years, then that won't be my problem, and maybe it won't be your problem. That's for another librarian to figure it out. So that's Sierra. And of course, you know, take a look at all the other stuff that's in there. I just want you to have a good idea of what's represented in these collections. The Skipper site, that's the historic preservation site. We have a new African American historic preservationist. Ramon is in there now, and so I'm seeing a lot of great new stuff on there. And I certainly would invite you to see what's there for your county. Okay, let's not do ARCAT right now. Let's go to Guide to Collections. So this is where a lot of people struggle. If you want to see what the archives has for your county, you have to start in the Guide to Collections. So let's come to Summary Guide to Local Records, Summary Guide to County Records, and we'll select Beaufort because I know Grace is there. Say I'm interested in one of these. You might say, oh, wow, great. They have these Beaufort County Clerk of Court records. I'm not exactly sure what they'll tell me, but I can see that they have them. So let's take this series number, and I'm just gonna, let me write it down too, just in case I screw it up. Let's take that series number. Now come back to the ARCAT. One more. Put that series number in there. You can kind of see what I've done. Okay, see, I got it screwed up. So L, you got to do the space and close it with your quotations. Voila. Now if you had tried to put in just the ARCAT, Beaufort County Clerk of Court, you would have gotten the most craziest stuff in the world. You've got to start with the Guide to Collections, get that series number, then you can come in here, and here it's going to explain to us what is in that series. Okay, it includes names of candidates, number of votes, date of election. Now we have a better idea what we might find in look at land condemnation proceedings for the lighthouse construction. That's interesting. So you start with that Guide to Collections and then go to the ARCAT. I promised Lisa I would be done at 1:45, so I'm going to stop there. And do you have questions, Lisa?
Okay, so I'm looking here at our chat, and so far I'm opening it up to questions now. So if people would like to put their question in the chat window, we can address any questions that people may have. Okay, so there's a question about being able to rewatch. There's a question about being able to rewatch the presentation, and the answer is yes. The SCLA has a YouTube channel, and we keep the webinars archived there.
So when will this be on the channel?
Oh, okay. That's Ramona talking. So we should have it soon. It shouldn't take too long. there'll also, for people that have registered, there should be follow-up to getting materials as well. So look for that with the email that you registered with.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This was really interesting, and I do a lot of this work, and I didn't know about some of these resources.
Well, that's why we're sharing. A lot of resources I'll put on my blog. So like Anderson County and Greenville County both have new databases. So I did a little post about them. And I've also put all the links on here to obituary indexes. And you'll also see like links on here. Somewhere on here is the oh yeah, there's the roster, the World War I roster. I don't know, most of the things I think we need links to have readily available. I'll pop them up on here if that helps anybody find things a little bit quicker. But I do try to keep updates on new resources. I try to get them up as soon as I know about them.
There's just a comment that we have about the difficulty for using the SC archives, and also your comment is about the birth certificates being someone else's problem was very happily received.
Well, I mean by that right now searching 3 years through the Excel file is not a hardship. When it gets to be 10 years, what are you going to do? Download 10 Excel files and start to look through that? For me, I won't be a librarian then. That will be someone else will work on that problem. And that's all I mean by that. I don't mean it harshly, but I mean it that we have other things we can worry about here today. In 10 years, hopefully there will be librarians who will worry about how to access those birth certificates a little bit easier than we are able to now.
Exactly. I guess since I'm not seeing anyone chiming in right now, the one thing that I wanted to ask is your level of researchers. So for people out there that maybe are just getting started with this at their library, what kinds of what level of research are people at? Like when you start them, I imagine once they get started, they can potentially have a lot of data. And what kind of time span does that mean for someone who's working in a library helping people with this?
So as we all know, we have to be prepared to help people from the beginning to the hardcore researchers. And for me, I feel as a public librarian that because we don't have all the stuff, we're not an archive. We're not an archive. I say that all the time. We're not an archive. We have to be prepared to direct people. So when the young woman came in the other day, she was getting started on her African American genealogy. She'd already done a lot of work and she had an Ancestry account, but she was stuck at Ancestry. She didn't know where to go beyond that. So I have to be prepared to help her find resources beyond Ancestry, because really, honestly, Ancestry is not going to be any help to her, or not much help to her, once she's hit the 1870 census. She's going to have to go find some new resources. That's part of the reason why we worked so hard on that 1868 voter registration, because that got our African American researchers 2 more years closer to emancipation. So it made them just a little bit closer to that moment of emancipation and where they would be at a certain place and time. But yeah, we've got to know how to help people who are just getting started. And like I said, send those people home. They've got to go home and get information and come back with it written down. That's one of my I'm happy to let them get on Ancestry and play around with it. But if they would like my real assistance, I got to see it written down, and they got to have something to get started with. And it's got to, the deader the person, the better.
What other kinds of things might come up that maybe aren't expected? Can you share any kind of stories that are, say, new discoveries that people necessarily didn't plan on?
So I guess we didn't really cover DNA. I'm not really a DNA expert, but people do ask us a lot about DNA, and you know what, DNA is the same answer, or I give people who ask about doing their family history. Don't get started if you're going to have your feelings hurt, or if you're going to be, if you might be really surprised by something you will find. We've had lots of people coming. It's been exciting because we've had a lot of people coming in who have found their birth families through DNA, and that's been very, very satisfying and a very important tool for that. We've also had some people who find out that maybe their mother's father isn't their mother's father, you know. I mean, that has happened. There's a lot of things in genealogy that you're going to find out that maybe you didn't want to know. But I always tell people, if it wasn't for prison records, I'd have no information on my father's side. So I try to use that to break up the ice, that we really don't care what the situation is. We just want to help you do the research.
Well, that's very well said, and we're getting commentary that was really useful for people to hear, because things may come up. We also have another comment from someone who has...
I see Ramona said something about training. I mean, yeah, I think that is I think there's also not a lot of training in South Carolina. So it is kind of, how do you search prison records? Well, first I try to find out, like, the archive has prison records from CCI. So you would, if you were doing South Carolina, you would start there. Every state's different. All we can do is be an expert. So I can be pretty much an expert on New York and an expert on South Carolina. I can't be an expert on all the others. It's a very specialized field. But yeah, the archive has prison records. Now at the county level, I don't know.
So I was going to ask also, how often do you have to, do people go on trips to places? Is that something that you see where, you know, you may have to send them literally to another state?
So for me, the way we started with some of this stuff was like with the one in Athens, somebody helped me, the Institute for Genealogical Research. They have a scholarship. Apply for the scholarship. Say you get the scholarship, then what I did was I went to my administration and said, wow, look at this. I got this scholarship. This speaks really well for our library system. The scholarship pays for the tuition. Would the library pay for my room and board, which is not much for that particular conference. And it's in Athens, Georgia, so it's very close. I would recommend, I would love to see South Carolina get that scholarship every year. There's scholarships for the, I can remember the letters, the GRIP, the GRIP in Pittsburgh. There's scholarships for that. make an effort to get the scholarship, or if you have to let them know ahead of, see, now we have to let our administration know ahead of time. That's probably my fault. But if you have to let them know ahead of time, say, I'd like to apply for this scholarship. Do you approve? And if they say yes, then, and you get the scholarship, then you break it to them. They got to pay for the room and board. But I would say that Athens one would be one. I think they could swallow the cost of that for sure.
And we're getting close to time, but I was wondering if you would want to mention anything about the kinds of unique programming that you have done for our library system, and if you want us to say a few words about that.
So a lot of my programming lately I've been trying to do in conjunction with other organizations. So we've been doing a lot of house history, house genealogy programs, and working with neighborhood organizations who are trying to help their neighbors build a history of their communities. So we've been doing a lot of house genealogy here at Richland Library lately.
And someone has a question about listing the scholarship agencies.
Yeah, Grace, I don't know why you torment me with stuff like that. I don't know if there's a list. I'll see if there's a list. And then, I don't know, Lisa, can we put it someplace if there is a list?
Sure. And you also might want to mention, again, your blog, too, because that's a great resource as well.
Yeah, if you just Google the Dead Librarian, it'll pop up. Grace, yes, you do mean to torture me, Grace.
And again, we're running up on time, but is there anything that maybe you want to add, things that any other tidbits that you think might be helpful for people out there that are just maybe getting started?
Well, I will say, if you're not familiar with other states, Family Search is a great place to start with that. So if someone comes in and they're doing Kentucky research, I'll often go to Family Search and say, okay, what is there on Kentucky? Because I have not a clue. And I'll generally share that, I always share that with my customers and say, take a look at this, you got to figure out your county and go from there. They also have a great collection of international records. So remember, any of you who have Ancestry Library Edition, it's just US. If you're having people who are trying to cross the pond, as it were, then they must go to Family Search and look at the materials they have on there for other countries.
Okay, that's good to know. And you also have a note that someone may be contacting you also about the house genealogy programs that you have so graciously been doing and working on. And we're very lucky to have you. And also, we thank you very much for your sharing of all this incredible specialty that you have and all the knowledge that you're sharing. So
great. Well, my email is on the PowerPoint, so if somebody wants to send me an email, I'm happy to respond as best I can.
Okay, good. And then we just have, again, a little bit of commentary about people being on laptops so they can go step by step with you as you have been showing us all the resources and searching.
It's funny when you're doing this step by step, it's really, I know I go fast, but when you slow down, then it just takes so much time that you just have to swoop through it. So it's great that the session's being recorded and you can go back and look at stuff.
Agreed. And I have a feeling that we'll have lots of people coming to this later and again, because there is so much information that you have shared with us today, and we appreciate your time and the work that you do, and we're grateful.
All right. Thanks for asking me, Lisa. And it was good to see you all. Thank you all for attending.
Thank you, everyone. Yay. So
Virginia.
wonderful. Thanks, everyone, so much. And that's time. Thank you.